Hello, I'm Brian Martin. Welcome to What Was Jesus Thinking? Fabulous passage today from Matthew chapter 20 on the struggle that many of the people in Jesus' life was having regarding some of his thoughts around generosity, especially when it had to do with who was going to gain eternal life, which, it's kind of like a big deal if that's what you believe. And oh my gosh, yeah, why is he doing that? That's what's going on in the mind of uh, some of Jesus' followers at that particular time. So it's Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. Are you ready? Here we go. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner. So for Jesus, the and for his followers, the kingdom of heaven is in complete opposition to any kind of earthly kingdom, especially the Roman Empire, and especially the leadership in Israel in that particular time. Jesus was just fundamentally opposed to the leadership and what was going on in Jerusalem and throughout the entire the region of Israel. He spent a lot of time in Galilee, where he found a good following, and people loved to hear him there. He was a native son. He was raised in Nazareth, and that was close to where everything was in around the Sea of Galilee. And so he was popular in that region. And that region was also in opposition to some of the things that were happening in Israel at that time. The idea of kingdom, of course, is tied to the Old Testament and the Davidic kingdom, and the promise that many felt was in the scriptures about a Messiah coming, the king, the kingdom of God, ruled by God, and God's um, emissary. And so this kingdom idea is huge. Not so much today. We're not so much enamored with kingdoms. We have our own political thoughts and views about things that are different, fundamentally different. But nevertheless, this theme of generosity that flows through this passage today resonates with anybody at any particular time. So, so Jesus was, the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. And when he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idly in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. And when he went out again about noontime and about 3 o'clock, he did the same thing. And about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, "Why are you standing here idly all day?" And they said, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." And when those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, am I doing you no wrong? Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you? Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be the first, and the first will be the last. So there's a complicated and a controversial passage, right? About labor laws and how that works and how it would work today. There's a lot of interesting things going on with labor laws. Some of them are on the ballot for this year, in California especially. So, my question to you is, what is the role of generosity in your life? And how do you exercise your generosity? I I believe that one of the things that people have is that they have complete control over their finances. Now, a lot of people will say, no, we don't. But I'm going to say, well, yes, you probably do have complete control over your finances. You're just not exercising the skills that you need in order to have complete control. You you possess all those skills and everything that's required. It's just you've not employed them. And so a lot of people struggle with finances, and many people remain in a survivor mode, struggling just to make ends meet, going from month to month or week to week or sometimes day to day. And that's a sad reality for a large portion of our population. Some people talk about the imbalance of equity in our society today, where 1% of the 1% in our country today that has the most money has a tremendous amount of money compared to those who don't. And so they see that divide. I see that too. And I think one of the things that we can do is we can help people generate more income and be wise about how they use their income. But regardless of your income level or where you're at, there's something that's fundamental to human beings that cannot be ignored, and that is generosity. Some of the most generous people in the world are those who have the least. And I think that's quite interesting, how freely people share their goods when they don't have much. And I think a lot of people grew up that way. And I just believe that's the way a lot of people are. That in spite of surviving and having the necessity of their own lives, they're willing to share. They share a meal. They share a portion of their groceries. They share their gas money. There's a sharing that goes on, and it's dramatic. And I wish that that kind of generosity would spread throughout every home, where each and every home would be so generous. That generosity would just flow from them. And I think that what that would do would be to help a lot of people. And that's a mindset and that's a skill. And I wish that more and more people would develop the skill of being able to manage their money. Now, I'm a fan and a follower of Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey teaches people how to get out of debt and how to create wealth. And I think that's just absolutely wonderful. In our business, we have a we have a business, and in our business, one of the things that we want to do is that we want to empower people to learn how to work and to control their work ethic and their work habits and their work skills so that they can live better. So the kind of business that we have is a real estate business. And what's interesting about real estate is that in spite of what people watch on TV, is that most real estate agents struggle financially. It's really interesting. And what's also interesting about real estate is how many real estate agents do not own a home. which is kind of interesting. You would think that a real estate agent might be able to afford a home, but many can't. And so, our agency and our business, what we have endeavored to do is to help people grow their business, help them with their work ethic, give them training and support, and how they can actually grow their business. And so we have systems and we have models for them to employ, and we have constant trainings for people. And it's important to us that we enable by teaching and by sharing and by giving, we help people to manage their finances. Because you know, as I do, that one of the most profound pressures that a home feels is finances. And it's the ability to manage finances that helps to mitigate a lot of that pressure. That is something that everybody can do. So I believe that our ability to be generous is really important, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of all the people around us. And I wish more and more people would do that. I want to share with you one story, and then we'll continue from there. The story that I want to share with you is that one time Jennifer and I were walking around the block, and we ran across a little boy, and he had a table that was set up on in his front yard, and it said accepting donations. And so this wasn't too long ago. And so I stopped and I looked and I said, I wonder what they are, what they're accepting, what this boy is accepting donations for. So he went up and I said, I see that you're accepting donations. He goes, yes. And he offered us a beaded bracelet. I wish I had it with me right now because I usually wear it. I wear it every day so that I could remember to tell the story. And he said, we're giving away these beaded bracelets for a donation. And so by that time, his mother and his father saw that we were standing at the table, and they came and they joined us, and as well as his little sister also. And so, prompted by his mother, she said, "Tell him what you're raising donations for." And so he said, "Well, we're raising." He handed me a brochure, and he says, "We're raising donation for kids who have clubbed feet." And so I picked up this beautiful brochure, and it talked about, right off the bat, it talked about how there were children throughout the world who were born with clubbed feet and how difficult that was for them. And it made it so that they couldn't walk. It made it so they couldn't get a job. It made it so they couldn't help provide for their families just because of club feet. Now, in the United States of America, club feet is an issue that's dealt with quite effectively. And there's a lot of people who have had club feet who have them fixed surgically or some other way so that they can function well. And Jennifer and I happen to know an esteemed friend of ours who's very active in our community, helping children in 100 different ways, it seems like, who has club feet, and he walks noticeably different. And so there's something that's really interesting to us, and we never heard of this particular group. And Mother said to the boy, he said, now tell them why you're so interested in raising money for clubbed feet. And he said, well, I had club feet, but I had mine surgically fixed. So he was really quick to say, I don't need this money, but I have a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy for other people. And so it really spoke to us so much about the heart of people. And here was this little boy who wanted to help, and he set up a table at in his front yard, and was asking people, and it was just a simple table, and I don't think he had actually collected a whole lot of money. And so Jennifer and I dug deep in our pockets and we pulled out a donation, And we both actually took the beaded bracelets because we wanted to tell the story about the generous little boy who, because he had received the benefit of having his club feet fixed in America, was interested in having children in third world countries have their feet fixed also. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that story because the analogy here is um, profound because each and every one of us have had something fixed and we've become generous because of it. So, I like to write books and I write books about love and I have just getting ready to publish another book called Oxytocin is the O in love. And it's about sustaining and maintaining an emotional connection. What happens in relationships when things start going bad in a relationship is that there's an emotional disconnection that happens. And it's palpable, and you can feel it, and you can see it by the different actions that are going on. I know about this because about 15 or so years into our marriage, Jennifer and I had a really, really difficult time. And I was afraid that we were going to lose our marriage. And so we didn't. We rebounded. And not only did we rebound, but we rebound to the nth degree, far greater than I would have ever thought or imagined. It's a principle of human beings called anti-fragility, where when we are subject to things, we have the ability not just to bounce back, but to grow exponentially because of the experience. And you can see it in all kinds of situations in people's lives. Now, people who have lost limbs through some traumatic event, war or terrorism or something like that, they they bounce back. Many bounce back. Some don't, but many bounce back, and they come back with this fantastic feeling of generosity where they need to respond with goodness and with love. And so they get involved. Uh, for instance, people who have lost limbs, they help other people who have lost limbs. They start charities to help children and other people who have lost limbs. And this generosity, it just grows in them and it grows and it grows. And it changes their life to where it's become something greater than they would have ever dreamed of or imagined. They would have never thought themselves doing these things. But because they were the beneficiary of others' generosity, now they themselves have a life full of generosity that impacts others. And so with Jennifer and I, we like to talk to people and tell people that we're real estate billionaires. Not financial billionaires. No, no, I'm sorry, I said real estate, but what I meant was relationship billionaires. Not financial billionaires, not real estate billionaires, but relationship billionaires. Because our relationship has grown from that poverty that we had when we almost lost our relationship to the point where today it's unbelievable. And that's why I write books, is because I feel the responsibility to share the generosity that was given us and share that with other people. And so that's what we do. Jennifer and I like to tell other people what they can do to become rich in love. Now, there's no laws against that, none whatsoever. And there's no real ethic about it either. It's just something that comes from the heart. And so I'm going to ask you today to take an inventory of where you are and where you have come from and what you've experienced. And how is it in your life that generosity flows? Because I believe that generosity flows from everybody's heart because everybody has this seed of love inside of them. And if you're not as generous as you had hoped you might be at this particular time, I wonder what gift or what skill or what talent you might have that you could share with others and be generous with them. I have friends who make soap and they share that. I have friends that do all kinds of interesting things that are their particular gift and skill. I have friends that are musicians and they share that. And because of their generosity, people's hearts are touched. Now, back to the gospel lesson. What was Jesus thinking? Well, Jesus was thinking that the extravagant generosity that his story revealed is something that can happen in the hearts and the lives of everybody, even our lives today. With so much going on in the world, this 2020 year, my goodness, are we going to remember that or what? That was the year, right? This was the year where generosity flowed out of our hearts in ways that we never thought of or dreamed of possible before. Wouldn't that be a great way to remember 2020? I'm Brian Martin, and you've been listening to What Was Jesus Thinking? God bless you. Have a blessed day. And I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon. Bye.